last team in the division, Baltimore Ravens, and they are spearheaded by a guy that both of us think is wildly overrated, at least as a fantasy quarterback. And he is the guy. He's the one where I started talking about chasing that buzz. You know what I mean? You're chasing that first buzz. I mean, we saw Lamar Jackson. What was it? 3 years ago? 2 years ago? When was it that he was just amazing?
2019. Yep.
Right. And he was incredible. And then it was just like everyone was so all in. And then it's like he's never going to do that again. I mean, in my opinion, that's an unattainable thing. And it reminded me a lot of Cam Newton. How we chased that buzz.
I think you hit it on the head when you said that the last time we recorded about him. 43% pass rate that year where he had it. That's exactly what I have them coming in at. So no passing volume to speak of. Now, 46%, I guess I'm being even a little more generous there. 54% rush coming in here. The kicker is he had that career year in 2019. They're trying to remodel this offense to be like that. They rebolstered the line. They cut rid of all their receivers. Like, it's going back to that. But I think now the league, you can only figure out a talent like Lamar Jackson so much. That's why I have him for 6.2 yards a clip. He's such a dynamic runner, 955, 6, 154.
It's a lot of rushes, though, man.
It's a lot of rushes. And then you look at the passing, and he had such a ridiculous touchdown rate that year of 2019. I don't see the players on this roster. Like, yeah, I like Rashod Bateman somewhat as a player, 909 yards and 9 touchdowns on 121 targets. That's a fairly good stat line. But then Devin Duvernay and Taylor Wallace and James Proche, no other receiver intrigues me. They might add Will Fuller. That's one of the latest rumors. They might add Julio Jones. So if it
Will
happens,
Fuller. Wow.
For the 4 games that he lasts, he'd be perfect though. Because for all his faults, Lamar Jackson does have a pretty nice deep ball.
Yeah, but then you should be able to sign him for like 25% of what you would sign a normal person for a year, because you're not going to get more than 3 or 4 games from him.
Yeah, just about right.
Right.
Obviously, the star of the passing show and the guy I've had, seeing 27% of the targets is Mark Andrews. He had almost 250 points last year at the tight end position. One of the
he's great.
The tight end one of last year. I don't see any reason with, now Marquise Brown and his 140 targets gone. Like, I don't see any reason why we should expect anything but top 2 numbers from Mark Andrews this year. The one rub was a lot of his biggest games came when it was actually, what's the backup's name? My mind.
Huntley.
Yeah, exactly. Huntley. The biggest games for Andrews came with Huntley at quarterback. So that is just something to note, something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. It's just it's just a weird offense that they're going back to their 2019 roots of just pounding the rock, which I should love J.K. Dobbins, right? But they're talking about coming along slow with him, making sure he's really fully ready to go, that he had to have a little second operation at some point or another thing.
They love the running back by committee too. I mean,
and they always have.
And by the way, just to call back to yesterday's episode, look at who their RB3 is. Mike Davis, who we specifically referenced yesterday. His Christian McCaffrey, I said it's a guy with a generic name. That's the guy.
There he is.
And he's getting Wolf likes him for 74 carries,
and maybe
which will come right out of J.K. Dobbins' pocket.
That's what I'm saying, because Dobbins, whether he misses week 1 or not, they're again going to take him along slow, and even if not, like he's not going to get targets. Lamar Jackson never targets his running backs. They even have him at 8%, which is kind of generous. He's never targeted a running back at that clip. And Mark Ingram, a good receiver, was there. He saw 10 targets. But Mark Ingram was also a top 14 running back there. So, could Dobbins do what Ingram did in 2019? Maybe, but he had to score 14 touchdowns to that. I have 9 for Dobbins. I have a nice yards per clip, 5.5. I don't think any of that's unfair.
Yeah, but that's exactly how you described Nick Chubb a minute ago, though.
Yeah.
Top 14 running back, 10 targets, something like that. I mean, that sounds like that's like exactly what we said about him. And that's why his value's capped, but with less rushes.
With lesser ground pie. Exactly. Right. I guess if I'm going to attack anybody from this team in general and just in the running game especially, I do like Gus Edwards, who falls to round 12, 13. Yes, he's also coming off an injury, but he seems to be further along than J.K. Dobbins. So you might get an early season stretch of Gus Edwards being the guy and Dobbins being the complement. And who knows if I do think Dobbins is a significantly better player, but even when, they're both fully healthy, it's going to be about a 30, 35, 25 type of backfield with Lamar Jackson taking a big 25% chunk too. So and especially at the goal line. So
You don't
yeah,
wanna
I'm
touch-
just
you don't
not
wanna
really
touch
big
any of this
on
stuff.
the Ravens. Lamar Jackson getting drafted as like the locked in QB 3 or 4, and to me, I have him projected as QB 11. I just don't. I think he's the most overrated player in fantasy. Like you said, they're all chasing that 2019 high. He hasn't been above the QB 10 in points per game for the last 2 seasons. I had him, and it was not a fun experience. He had like one really good game.
You projected Lamar as your QB 11. You actually have him as your QB 8, which surprised me a little bit. You actually, I mean, there's a little of that buzz still floating around you, just a little.
I get it is that idea of similar to Mahomes being my QB 9, but ranked at QB 3. Like there is a world that Lamar Jackson does regain MVP.
Well, we've seen it. There's a difference between those guys and other guys, and the difference is we have actually seen it with our own eyes.
Right.
Like we don't have to speculate. Is he capable of this? We know he's capable of it, or at least he was a couple years ago. And so that's always that counts for something. Before we wrap up completely, and we're about to head to the AFC South, there are a lot, and I mean a lot of unsexy teams in that. I mean, this could be like an 8-minute division maybe. But before that, just real quick, rank those teams for me 1 to 4.
That division
AFC North.
I will say the Bengals win the division.
Yep.
I think the Ravens, even though I'm down on them fantasy wise, like they always play it tough. Harbaugh's a good coach. I think they finish second. Steelers third. Browns last. What about you?
Same thing, except I'm switching the Steelers and the Ravens.
Okay, Steelers number 2.
I'm going a little bit of pedigree there. The Steelers seem to always end up a winning team, even just barely, even if their team looks like shit. I mean, they've just done it so many times, and I just don't like what I see for the Ravens. So I feel very good about Browns fourth.
I think isn't Tomlin like Tomlin's the only coach in NFL history to like coach as long as he has and never have a losing season, right? Like it's insane. You got to give the guy credit. So that's kind of how
I'm going Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, Browns. All right, and that's going to do it for the AFC North.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments. Check out some more videos and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.